how to build trust with employees. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So how do we build trust with our employees? Well, there's tons of different ways to actually go about doing this. I'm going to talk about a few of them on this video. So here's the deal. We have employees in our organization, whether it's for-profit, non-profit, we need to have trust with them, which is also a two-way street. We need to be able to trust them and they need to be able to trust us, okay? That's the first ground rule. We got to be able to trust each other or else we should not be working together. So how do we go and build trust with our employees? Well, that's a leadership question, and we really need to understand if we're a good leader. But the first thing we need to do, and I talk about that in my trust equation, is make sure that we're having a baseline of consistency, reliability, and vulnerability. Those three in the numerator of that fraction will actually help us start building trust with our employees. We need to be able to communicate our message with the employees. We need to know them. We actually have to have somewhat of a relationship with our employees. Yeah, in a small business it's so easy, but in big organizations it's a lot more difficult. And we need to make sure that our management is understanding that. That kind of goes with the culture. We have to have a culture of trust in our organization, that everybody is accountable and everybody trusts what's going on. Nobody really wants to show up and work for this sleaze bag that is stealing all the money. They're embezzling all the money, has all these private jets and Maserati cars and all these kind of sports cars, yet everybody else is barely making ends meet. We don't want to work for somebody like that. And we also don't want somebody who's lying about everything and would stab us in the back. So we gotta have high levels of trust. In the military, the most successful people like Navy SEALs actually have high levels of trust. They actually grade trust as being better than somebody who is more fit than everybody else. Physically fit is what I'm talking about. They actually want to have high levels of trust because in a team environment, which is life and death on that one, you gotta have high levels of trust. In our organization, we gotta be building trust with our employees. Can't say that enough. So how do we do that? Well, we gotta consistently show up, just like I talked about in the trust equation. We gotta be reliable. Do what we say we're going to do when everybody's looking and when no one's looking. And we need to be vulnerable. If we do that and share, like sometimes when there's hard things, listen, I don't know the exact answer yet, but I'm going to find out to make sure that we're going to be successful. Being vulnerable like that is okay. I know most guys sit there and say, man, I can't be vulnerable, it makes me seem weak. Actually, the most successful people are vulnerable with their teams. So we do need to be vulnerable. Okay? We also need to not be selfish, because selfishness, no matter how consistent we are, no matter how reliable, how vulnerable we are, if we're being selfish for our own notoriety or whatever it is, that negates all of those other qualities and we're going to pull down our trust levels. Okay? So how can we build trust with those employees? That's what we need to talk about now. Well, we need to have conversations with them. We need to meet with them. We don't want to be locked in our office high above everybody and not have any contact. So the successful people in organizations actually walk around, say hi to their employees, know about their employees at a top level, and have some kind of relationship. Depending on how big your organization structure is, that gets easier or harder depending on how many employees you really have. So I also say, have a CRM for the employees. In sales, we do CRM, customer relationship management tools. We should be understanding what's going on with our employees. Successful organizations like Ramsey Solution, who has over 1,000 employees, their management know what's going on so that the team can actually rally around someone who's going through troubles. Maybe they have a cancer diagnosis. Maybe their family member is so sick that they might die. Those managers actually know what's going on so they can rally the troops and help that person. That's what we really need to be doing, showing care. So Do a CRM. Understand them. Not to leverage them like some lawyers will say, like you can't have their age or whatnot, but you can have their birth date so you can send them a card that says happy birthday so that they know that they feel valued. We need to make sure that everybody feels that way, and a CRM is probably the easiest way to maintain those things when you're going to meet with people. Now, the second thing we need to do, and in our teams with our employees, like if we're a manager or a sales manager or a VP, we need to take our teams off-site and do some kind of training together. Now, I'm not saying you gotta do all these wilderness trainings or do a Navy SEALs training. You can do an escape room. Go build and cultivate those relationships with those that report to you. Go do something small. Have a barbecue after hours one day just to hang out with your employees. Do something where you guys can get together outside of normal working hours. Maybe it's once a month, maybe it's every couple months, but make sure that you're building those relationships to hang out with those people and learn about them. Do something with them. And here's the deal, when we go and do an off-site group thing together, like I said, like even an escape room, it actually builds communication and trust with those when people are working together for a common goal. You know, then there's also those operation adventures where you're basically hanging off a ceiling 50 foot in the air on a ropes course and people are having to rely on each other to work together. Fantastic option, but it's more costly. That's why I say like escape rooms are pretty easy for people to do. But even as grilling out meals every once in a while can be good too, just so we're building up those relationships and that rapport. That's basically what we want to have to build trust. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is, yeah, we can have surface level trust, but as we start going with our mission, we need to grow that trust higher and higher. So we need to work together, and over time, if we're doing the right things, we're going to build higher levels of trust with people, be able to have those discussions with people and move forward together. But that takes time. We really need to start building trust from the get-go. So when we're doing those interviews, we need to talk to them, understand what's going on. One of my favorite stories that I've heard about like interviewing is like Ramsey Solutions, where they do like almost 12 different interviews. In the final one, they're actually going out to dinner with the significant other and that person to see how they align on what they're going to do. And they've actually gotten that far and actually just said, you know what, this isn't going to work out to some people because of that meal and interaction. Because people can put this mask on during working hours, but after hours, that mask typically comes off, especially when they're with their significant others. So we want to make sure that we're working with them and building a solid foundation, trust. We need to work at it consistently if we're going to be successful with our employees. Now, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about it, feel free to reach out. My contact information is below. If this video is helpful, hit like, share, subscribe, send to somebody you think it might benefit. That's why I do these videos, to help you. We'll see you next time.